I'm Monahan from Richline. We decided to sponsor a technology-oriented event for a lot of reasons. Maybe the most important one is this kind of came together after the CES show when Cuff and Omate and I spent a lot of time at that show, and what we saw was mostly a guy's world. And we also saw lots of interest in moving wearables into jewelry space. Hey, that's our space. We thought that bringing together a really knowledgeable, esteemed group of experts from the technology area, Silicon Valley and so forth, would be very good for everyone in the industry to understand just where this is going. Technology is here. It's touching every single part of our lives. Our homes, our automobiles, our health, and so forth. And it's going to touch jewelry for sure. So if there's no other message that, we've lived with lots of traditional categories in jewelry, diamonds, watches, gold, silver, and so forth. Well, there's a new one. And that new technology category is something we'd like everyone here to contribute to, learn about, pay attention to. And if there's nothing else that would leave you with a message today, it's our number one belief that function needs fashion. And that's what everybody in this room represents. So, on that, I'd like to introduce, I'm going to start off by introducing our esteemed and really awesome moderator, Robin Raskin. Say hello.
Hello.
I don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to read a little of this, but Robin is the founder and CEO of Living in Digital Times. And Living in Digital Times works with the Consumer Electronics Associations and the CES show to put together the fashion shows and really probably the most interesting things that you see at the show. And there's technology, and then there's making it relevant. And what Living in Digital Times does and has done for us today is take technology, take jewelry, take all the, everything that we were hoping for and make it all relevant in a very concise way. So, Robin, now I am going to read. I'll read it. Number one Huffington Post. Author, editor, magazine publisher, blogger, TV and radio personality, and consultant. Robin says she's never met a media she didn't like. Robin is the former editor of PC Magazine and editor-in-chief of Family PC. She's a columnist for the U.S. Been a columnist for USA Today, authored 6 books, and as I said, also writes for the Huffington Post. So, more important that I have Robin up here than me. So, Robin, please come up.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if you realize, and I know we sort of look like munchkins around the table here. I don't know if you realize what a historic moment you are in this room. And I hope that next year and a year from now, and as this technology curve continues to its trajectory, you will see that history was made here in this room today, because I've been in this industry for 30 years on the tech side, and I have never seen such a gathering of not just fashion and function, but an ecosystem that can help you shop better, help you stay healthier, help you live better, enjoy, stay connected, and look darn good while you're doing it. So I really salute Richline for envisioning this, and all of you for making the time to be here. So wearables, as you know, if I went through my life, we start with desktops, we go to laptops, we go to mobile phones, which finally let us get away from carding things, get us untethered. And now, as mobile phones can talk to new devices filled with sensors, filled with the internet cloud, filled with great form factor manufacturing, you're seeing a Da Vinci renaissance of products and ideas. So we picked some of the best in the field for you to listen to today, and I'll give them a brief introduction. They're going to each tell you, kind of like the blind man and the elephant, about their slice of the world and what wearables look like to them. And then we will grill them. And it did occur to me as I was walking down here, I said, when they said, do you want to speak at a jewelry show? I said, gee, diamonds are forever. Technology is for about 30 seconds. How are they ever going to meet? So I want you, and I think I've seen some amazing ideas on how that will actually work. So given those two givens, and given that I feel like we're the bride and the groom side of the family, let's delve in to the tech meets jewelry. We have Amanda Parks. Amanda runs Manufacture NYC, amongst other things, out of MIT Media Lab. True vision for all sorts of fabrics and their role in the fashion world. You'll hear from Sonny Vu. Sonny runs Misfit. Everybody has seen the gorgeous Misfit. The wow moment was the day that you finally figured out somebody did something. You didn't need a tethered cable to get your data off of your fitness bracelet into your phone, and now that has grown to a visionary platform of many devices. You'll hear from Dave Monahan from FitLinks. Sonny will show you how beautiful the visible world is. Dave will show you how beautiful the invisible world of technology is. Imagine a bandit-sized strip that can tell everything about you. And then we go to the matrix portion of our program, where Scott Amyx will put some of these sensors and hardware and back-end analytics software together to show you a future where called affective computing is the term I want you to remember, where your body is the computer, it is the network, and it is informing the world of all sorts of states of your being. I'm ready for the Rod Serling music to take off. So with no further ado, I am going to fast forward on the slide. And I'm going to introduce Amanda. And Amanda's going to swap presentations. And we're having had a little bit of a format issue. All right, so we'll quit. Amanda, name of the company?
No, I'm ready. Oh, I thought you were going to ask me. Oh, okay. No, that's great. Can I just use this? No. Okay, I'll use this. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me here. Thanks for the invitation, Robin and Mark-Hannah. So basically, I've been working in wearables for over 10 years. But I came to it in a very sort of strange direction. I was at the MIT Media Lab working at the intersection of robotics, interaction design, and soft and smart materials, which lended me to making things like textile robots for a PhD, as well as kind of larger kind of body scale installations and architectural scale installations. And then when I got to New York City after leaving the Media Lab, I founded a studio called Skinteractive, where I worked basically as a kind of structural engineering consultant for couture, among other things, but was basically looking at the intersection of lots of different forms of technology and fashion, and learning about the fashion world kind of backwards, through the back door of technology. So everything from integration of traditional craft with 3D printing, things like fiberglass casting inside of things like amethyst mohawks. So there was quite a bit of work in jewelry, as well as building things like body sensor networks for Elizabeth Strubb's Olympic performance in 2002 in London, and other forms of interactive theater, things like parasitic energy paradigms. I also teach at the Columbia Architecture School sort of high concept classes around fashion tech. So right now, I merged my studio with something called an organization called Manufacture New York, which is a hybrid fashion incubator, manufacturing facility, and a technology R&D lab, which I'm currently setting up. And this is looking at the future of fashion, textiles, and wearable tech. And this is one of the reasons that I really want to be inside of this space, is to kind of start to look at how we can think about traditional fashion, and a lot about aesthetics, and a lot about expression of the body. You know, everything about fashion and jewelry itself is a lot about identity. And that's not exactly how technology works. It's not how it works inside of business. It's not how it works necessarily inside of manufacturing. So this is looking at how do we actually have very high-level R&D along with a kind of traditional fashion companies and traditional fashion manufacturing inside of a massive facility inside of New York City. We now have 320,000 square feet in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. And so we're setting this up to be a kind of full vertically integrated fashion manufacturing facility, starting from you can enter with a sketch of anything and leave with a fully manufactured line, including things like eyewear, jewelry, and flexible circuit board manufacturing. So for me, this is really about how do we merge the language of fashion and tech, and how very different it's been for me to try to become a kind of communicator and a bridge between these two worlds as I grew kind of closer to both of them. On the left, you see a company called MC10 making an amazing, basically it's a circuit band-aid, flexible, stretchable. And on the right, zigzag stitch. So I was on a panel a little while ago with one of the technologists from MC10, and he was talking about their IP, about being stretchable, and the squiggly line, etc., how that gave them the stretch. And I said, oh, like zigzag stitch? And had no idea what I was talking about. And so just this idea of thinking about the craftsmanship and the sort of skills involved between the two worlds is one of the places where I think that we have a lot to talk to each other about, across industries. So what I'm doing is setting up 3 interrelated technology labs, which is advanced digital fab, soft circuits, and wearables in biology and chemistry. So things like 3D printing for, soft materials, composite materials, the beginning of kind of fibers and 3D printing, as well as looking at how we can actually use data feeds inside of different forms of fashion manufacturing machines, like 3D knitting and all different kinds of CNC looms. We'll also have a section on soft circuits and wearables, which will be able to go kind of merge this junction between things that are on the body that are hard and things that are soft. And that's really what I'm trying to set up for by then looking much more into the future along with a biology, chemistry, and biofabrication lab. And this is where I really see the future, is how do we start to transition off of, when wearables used to be, sort of looked like, a computer kind of threw up across your body because the technology was really big. And as the technology gets better and better, we're concentrating it more into smaller and smaller packages and focus on the wrist. But I want us to try to take the entire architecture of the body back. And one of the ways that we can do this is to use our actual clothing and to use fibers themselves. Because I also think that biology is really the next hardware revolution, and so we need to start to think about natural state change processes and what actually materials do inherently in themselves. And metals are one of the most amazing ones, and how we can actually start to mix together different composites and how we can start to use the actual inherent materials that are in a piece of clothing or in a piece of jewelry as the circuit itself to perform the interaction functionality that we're looking for. So when the day that the Apple Watch came out and everybody was focused on this is where I was, in a Princeton laboratory in the basement, working on, this is the first production of some fiber batteries. This is with Dan Steingart, a partner of mine, and we're basically creating a system where you can, basically composite two different chemical materials, suspend them in a biological agar, which is fully washable, and then this creates basically a voltage differential across them, and then you weave them, so this is what it looks like up close, weave them together in something like a 3D knitting machine, and you can really start to think about having a battery that covers your entire body that's entirely passive. So this is the kinds of composites that become. So the point being that when we have materials like this, when we're limited with materials like this, we end up with devices like this, which is great for a particular kind of subset of devices and objects, but when we have, for fabrication processes like this, we can end up with actually real textiles. And then another area that I just wanted to touch on quickly, for me, not all wearable technology involves electronics. And one of the things that we do inside Manufacturing New York is have an incubator for emerging fashion brands and fashion technology companies. And one of the first ones I've taken on is a company called Thesis Couture, which is looking at redesigning the high heel from the inside out. Literally, the high heel has not been re-engineered in a very long time. This is what's inside of it, stamped metal. It's literally medieval. And we have not, there's a whole, this is like low-hanging fruit. So we're starting from the inside out and basically using all new technology around new IP around polymers, around structural engineering. The team is literally a SpaceX spinoff. The CEO is Elon Musk, former head of talent, and we got a rocket scientist from there, a materials scientist, we have an orthopedic surgeon, and an Italian shoe artisan. And this is what the meetings look like. We're looking at finite element analysis around shoes, around the dynamics of walking, around the kind of statics of standing, and around all different material properties in itself. So that's kind of, I see this just as much as fashion, as just as much about fashion tech in itself. And eventually, materials like this will become digital. We're looking more and more at phones that can actually be piezoelectric sensors, and we're starting to kind of have this breakdown between passive and active, and we'll really sort of not have to think about what is technology as and what is a circuit or what is powered and what is materiality, but I really want to emphasize that the breakdown is where I think the future of this space is. Thanks.
I know that you'll digest what Amanda said, like, for years to come, but I always ask her, so okay, when can I just have a big jacket that gets cold when I'm warm and warm when I'm cold? And those really are the kinds of things that will be solved. And I'm sure she'd be happy to have you at Manufacture NYC, because the other conversation we have a lot is, okay, we lost the industrial, we lost manufacturing overseas once. Because we couldn't retool quickly. Imagine what we can do when we retool collaboratively with the kinds of projects that she's working on and the kinds of jewelry projects I think you'll be working on. So I'm very excited for a lot of reasons. Next up, we're moving to Dave. Now, Dave comes out from the Fit Links, from the fitness sensor, and he'll tell you a little bit about what he's working on. We're going to see who falls off the stage first.
As far as getting to this slide. As Robin was saying, this is like the bride and the groom's parents come together. The only person more surprised than I am being at a jewelry show is my wife. She did not actually believe that I was going to be presenting at a jewelry. So just to sort of emphasize sort of what we're focused on, if you look at me right now, I'm not really a jewelry person. I have my wedding ring on, but any idea how many wearables I'm wearing right now? I have 4. And obviously they're all invisible. And the reason I have that, one's a activity tracker, which is something we've had for a while, but I'm testing 3 different Band-Aids right now. And you can see, this slide up here. So what we're really focused on is taking the monitoring and completely making it invisible, and making it something that's, does not get in the way of a person, can interact with their environment. So this has the capability of sending data to all kinds of different devices. It can send data to jewelry, whatever somebody wants it to do as far as talk to other devices, it can do that. But the idea of the actual monitoring piece is to completely make it invisible. So, can we show that?
Just going to give you an up-close look. Oh, 1 and 2.
Okay, so just okay. Sorry. So this is the device itself. You can see it's back in the showcase, but you can see it's a small device. It's about 3 inches by an inch. It's about less than 0.2 of an inch thick. And what it is, it's a piece of silicon, but it's got electronics embedded inside of it, completely sealed from the outside world. So it's got an accelerometer, it's got an ECG, it's got a thermistor for measuring temperature. We can add other sensors to it. There's lots of sensors you can add to this sort of platform. And what it's doing is, in the background, just monitoring your body. So I'm wearing one actually right now, just below my chest right here. It's just sort of sitting on my rib cage. And it's sending data continuously to my phone. So this is a live feed of my data. And what it's doing is, right now, it's for the sports world. So if I switch back to that other slide, let me just go to the... I'm a technologist, and I have no idea how to use it. So what this is doing right now is, it's made for the sports world. So sports enthusiasts, fitness enthusiasts, professional athletes actually use the device, but we're looking at how do you show an athlete how their body's functioning, not just during exercise, but after exercise. And how do you make that very easy so that they don't get bothered by like a big chest strap or having to wear something on their wrist, or if something gets in the way, they complain about wearing anything when they're in their athletic moment because they don't want to get in the way. Even chest straps, the ones you put around your chest, are a problem for them because balls hit them, they get hit, and it's actually dangerous. So this is on a 24/7 basis. It's monitoring their heart. It's a full ECG monitor. It's monitoring their physical activity, how much they're moving, how hard they're moving, how many calories they're burning, how much distance they're traveling, the intensity of their workout. It's also measuring the body temperature. It's also measuring their posture. Are they standing, sitting, lying down? And I'll get to why that's important in a second. It's accurate. It's waterproof. We have people swimming in the ocean for 2 hours with this thing. We have people using it in marathons. The number of marathoners at the Boston Marathon used it. And so it's very robust. But what it's showing the person is a couple things. When they exercise, they're getting all their information when they're exercising. So how hard are they pushing their body? Are they getting into the right heart zone? Are they in the heart zone, in the right zone for a long enough period? And we give them a score based on how hard they push their body. When they're not exercising, it's actually showing them things like resting heart rate recovery, heart rate variability, which are very important metrics for an athlete to understand. I won't get into each one of them, but typically people try to measure these by themselves. They'll try to measure their pulse, or try to do some things with some other devices. And there's a manual piece of that. What we've done is completely automate that and make that completely in the background. So for example, resting heart rate is a real important metric for everybody to understand. It's how well your cardiovascular system sort of functions. It's one measurement of it. People try to measure it when they're stimulated up, after they drank some coffee. You're supposed to get that measurement just as you're waking up, just before you get out of bed, before you've stood up. We see all that. We understand when the person's in that state, and we take the measurement. And so what we're doing with the device is, right now it's in sports and fitness, we're adding new capabilities to it, and we're working with some healthcare providers, and this is where the large opportunity is, long term. It's going to take a while to get there, where healthcare providers want to put this on patients. So when patients leave the hospital, let's say they have COPD or CHF or diabetes, they want to see how the person's functioning outside the hospital. It's very much like the sports case. So we had a sports scientist tell us, I know what my athlete's doing 2 hours a day. I have no idea what they're doing 22 hours a day, and they want that data and insight. Same thing with the hospital and healthcare provider. They know what the person is doing when they're in the healthcare provider's setting, but when they leave, they have no idea. For a client, in a very similar way. Now, let me switch back to this just so you can. Yeah. Okay. So this will. Nope.
It's like a magic door. Because I'm doing a little level with it.
So you just see my heart rate right now. It's elevated since I'm up here talking, but it's 93. I'm in zone 1. As I go exercise, it'll go up the zones. It's giving me a trace. That's my heart rate that's been tracing for about half an hour now. I just put it on trace to see how it was doing, what zone it was staying in. And then you can see my peak heart rate was 113. I went for a walk. My min rate was 63. In the last hour, I only taken 16 steps. It's not very good. These scales are not good for your health. And there's a bunch of other metrics you get always. But the net is, I'm not sure how this applies to the jewelry space. I think it can interact with jewelry. I think it can interact with lots of things in your life. We're open to ideas and collaborations and things like that, but I don't have the answers. We're building this product for what I just described, but we're also trying to figure out how it can expand into other ecosystems.
What Dave just said is really important, because he's right. The early adopters of all of this were the sports guys for a lot of reasons. They are absolutely narcissistically crazy about measuring their bodily functions. Once everybody else realized that you could do it for various ways and various things, whether you're on a date, whether you're ill and with a chronic condition and just need to look good at the same and feel good at the same time. So I think this technology is really open to a lot of the designs to be beautiful. Sonny, has everybody seen a Misfit? A Misfit band? Oh, we're gonna put it up on the big screen for you. But Sonny will explain his vision behind a fitness band that has grown from being a fitness band to really a platform of pretty much beautiful elegance. So I'm gonna fast forward. Here you got it. Oh, no. All right, you want to take it from? We're gonna see who falls, like I said.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So my very first wearable is actually something I bought. I begged my mom to buy for me from it was QVC or something. I don't even know what it was called. some sort of home shopping channel thing in the 80s. Believe it or not, it was a silver vest that had speakers here, and I could actually plug my Walkman. Remember those things? And then I just thought it was the coolest thing. I wore it once, and then I never wore it again. But I still have it, and so I can honestly say I've been following wearables for about 30 years. 10 years later, when they thought about it at MIT, and Steve Mann was walking around with his cyborg goggles and whatnot, I thought, wow, maybe they will do this someday. It's coming soon. 2005, nothing happened. 2015, finally. Okay, so now we're actually, there's categories there's an aisle called wearable technology at Best Buy. Who would have thought? So I'm so excited that it's finally happened, and that it's not so strange. If you think about even the concept of wearable technology 5 years ago was just weird, right? But now we're at a jewelry show in Vegas talking about wearable technology. I think that's just amazing. And however, when we were first thinking about doing this, my partner John Scully, former CEO of Apple, we decided to found this company 3 years ago. We were looking at the landscape and we saw how some of the products in the space were taking off, and we said, okay, we absolutely have to do something here. And we had been friends for a few years, and I thought, hey, do you want to start a company? And he said yes. And believe it or not, it happened to be founded. We were founded on the day. People asked, well, how did you come up with the name Misfit? And it came out as a result of us founding the company on the day that Steve Jobs died. It was, if you believe in coincidences, this would certainly qualify. And so we thought, it'd be interesting to honor the spirit of unconventionality that Steve represented by naming the company Misfit. From that video, here's the crazy ones, the Misfits, the Rebels. So that's where we got our name. Anyways, when we looked at the space, we thought, a lot of this stuff looks like it's made by Silicon Valley geeks like myself for Silicon Valley geeks. And we thought, that's it. We can't do that. We're going to start over, hit a reset button. We're going to try to make something that women are going to wear, that my wife would wear. She doesn't wear plastic. It's, platinum, gold, or whatever it is that I could afford. And I think it's silver. So that's what we said, that's it. Let's design something that would be wearable first, and then let's engineer around it, because we're sick of all this over-engineered stuff that we see out there that maybe we just couldn't do it, so we thought that we should do something more simple. So we said, that's it. Round, iconic design that people can relate to, something that women would wear anywhere, and we would not target fitness. Okay, now that's weird, but if you think about it, hardly anyone in the world exercises. There's only a few 100 million people. The rest, of us want to exercise, or even more, want to look like they want to exercise. Okay? And don't laugh, because so we sell. So China is one of our largest segments. It's a third of our revenue. China, who would have thought? And I thought, why would people in China buy this? You can't even run outside, it's toxic. And I realized you won't believe this, but about 10% of our users in China don't actually put a battery into our products, they just wear it. And it's because it's an aspirational thing, it's a reminder. I have one right here on my wrist. It's a reminder of
button to the right of what the one that's lit.
And that one right there? Yeah, there we go. And you tap it and the lights turn on. Let's see here. There we go. And that tells you what your progress is towards your daily activity goals. I set mine not that high, so I hit my goals pretty easily. We wanted to make it incredibly customizable so that you can wear it in a number of different contexts, whether it's on the wrist, you want to clip it on, as a necklace. This one, the blue necklace, did amazingly well. We see tens of thousands of units a month. And it's stainless steel, it's not like it's anything fancy. So what we've learned is that telling stories is incredibly powerful. One of the most powerful things, one of the biggest things missing from this world of wearable technology, because people talk about technology, and I think really what we need to talk about are great stories that inspire people to be more active. So I really think if I were to just close up, I would just say there's 3 things that we're trying to do to tell great stories. One is having products that are self-evident about the story that they're telling, that being fit doesn't have to, you don't have to be that, extreme athlete to try to be fit. It can just be a lifestyle product, and it's about changing habits. And it's about, and customizability. I think it's at the heart of fashion. It's also about having other brands tell your stories. So we partner with Victoria's Secret, and we say, instead of us saying, hey, shine is really sexy, we just say, well, ask Candace, she knows. Or any of the other Victoria's Secret angels, they're wearing shine right now. It's a pink shine that we did for them. Or you can ask Miranda, and the folks at Swarovski, where in terms of having something that's elegant. And so that's really our story. And then the last one, so products that are self-evident, brands that can help tell your story. And third, and probably the most important thing, is community. Having your community of users, of wearers of your product, tell your story of why you should wear these things. And so that's one of the most important things that we're working on, is building the community of Shine users. We have fan events, we have online, offline events, and especially in China. I don't know why we're big in China. I hate to be like that band that's big in Europe, but well, we're big in China, and for some reason the design has caught on, and we've done these fan events. Hundreds of people show up. We just put up on WeChat, and people show up. And so I think we've I guess, I don't know, proof by example, which is not a great idea, but we've shown that through, I think, iconic design, great brand partnerships, and community building, you can actually build something that really sticks. So it's been a great ride. The product's been out in the market for about a year and a half or so. We shipped over 1 million units in the fourth quarter last year, and we're trying to get the word out. Because what's interesting is even that is just a drop in the bucket right now, because there's billions of people to reach. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonny. We're going to grill you about your plans for the future a little bit and see how much you'll tell us after this. And now I'd like to bring Scott up. Except I'm doing it. Can you get to that slide?
You can sit there? Okay. Yes, we'll sit. Yeah.
I'm going to bring Scott up because if you think you just saw a little bit of the future, you're now going to see the future. And as soon as we get back to the past of PowerPoint, and Scott, why don't you come up and give a little introduction as soon as you're moving?
Sure, I'm actually going to stay here because even though I have my black belt, I was never taught to balance on stages like this.
There won't be prizes after.
Well, by the way, I wear all my wearables without any batteries. I don't know why you have to call me that.
Let's get you already fit.
There you go.
This is like TMI.
So I think some of the things that if you're struck as you're listening, especially in the context of jewelry, you're probably thinking, well, how do these hardware devices and wearable devices play into the jewelry space? Well, the area that I want to speak to you about is really this notion about new era of sensing. So there's an article that I wrote on IEE that talks about the fact that with wearables and IoT, there's many different facets that we're starting to collect about us, both from things that's worn on our bodies, like smartwatches and clip-ons and so forth, and even clothing, but even things that are measuring EEG, like our headbands, facial recognition, body language. We haven't actually heard too much about interstitial fluids, but being able to actually look at the composition of your sweat and your saliva instead of being able to do invasive type of blood glucose type of extraction, for instance. Neurochemicals, which is very fascinating, neurotransmitters. So if you think you need a shot of caffeine, wait until into the future when you can actually maybe get a shot of oxytocin or melatonin or any types of neurochemicals that could give you the right sets of chemical boosts that you need legally. So before I actually show you a demonstrative video, I want to actually put some context. So what we're talking about is the fact that all of these things, different profiles, whether it's a smartwatch or a smartphone or clip-on or even connected home and connected cars, all of these starts to provide data points or signals. When we actually start to coalesce and converge this type of information, you start to get actually very rich information around context, stimuli, external stimuli, as well as what you're doing, who you're with, your potential intent, and your past behavior. So in other words, where we're going with this in the future is this notion of this ambient computing virtual assistant. So if you're familiar with a couple of the technologies that are out there, XAI. XAI is a artificial intelligence-based system that helps you to schedule meetings in your email. And all you have to do is include Amy at XAI, and it will automatically sort that out for you. There are others like Easily Do, assistant apps that helps you with these task automation as well. Well, the point is that many times we spend the bulk of our day doing a lot of administrative task-oriented things that these ambient ecosystem, not a singular device, but rather an ecosystem of devices working together, can actually start to do things for you and anticipate your needs. Pretty exciting. So let me walk you through a use case here where a shopper actually has gone to a Louis Vuitton store. And through the different modalities such as in-store camera vision, let's say gimbal beacons and other IoT sensor capabilities inside the store, as well as their smartphone and any wearables that they're potentially wearing, we can actually start to detect their emotional reaction. And this is the field of what we call affective computing, which is a combination of psychology, cognitive science, and neuroscience. And here, this person is actually standing and actually interacting with this particular purse. And by the way, it's only $150,000. You had the budget for it. And when it actually detects that emotion, the Louis Vuitton campaign management system actually picks up on that signal, and it triggers a message that says, oh, by the way, are you loving this? And unfortunately, the promotion doesn't give you a discount because you don't get a discount, but you do get a VIP concierge service. And after you purchase that, and you share that on social media, and as you type it, the system can also look at your semantic text in your instant messenger and automatically assign an emoji next to it. Now, let me walk you through this video that you're going to see. It should auto-play. There we go. Oops.
Oh, just go back one? Yeah, Here we go.
Okay,
One
perfect.
minute on the plate for you.
Great, thank you. So what you're seeing here is, first is this is our actual facial recognition system working. And it's using something called the facial action coding system methodology to be able to determine your primary as well as your advanced emotions, such as frustration, confusion. We've actually defaulted it to a simplistic happy yes or no that becomes a trigger to your campaign management system that, hey, this person is actually interested in this. So a good context would be when a shopper comes into your retail store, for instance, what type of a product are they interested in? And here, and if it could just, what you're seeing is this text sentiment analysis. So if this gets hooked into, let's say, a Facebook or a WhatsApp app, we can actually start to understand what you're actually saying, and based on the text, assign automatically the emoji. And it's a nice, fun way. But imagine, for example, a client that we're working with, they do frictionless transaction using their smartphone. Well, afterwards, they ask them, what was that like? Would you like to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5? This basically allows for automatic customer satisfaction based on what you wrote. And that also includes photos and videos that you share. Here what you're seeing is that in an actual physical environment, and we recognize that sometimes not everybody has wearables, so we have to resort to the lowest common denominator, which is the smartphone. And the smartphone provides enough capabilities to be able to understand where you are, the fact that you're inside a Louis Vuitton store, the fact that you're walking from one merchandise area to another, and depending on how we work in conjunction with the IoT sensors that are built inside the store itself, we can actually determine not only the area, but potentially the product that you're looking at, and the kind of brand engagement that you're having with that product. The phone provides a number of capabilities like the accelerometer, gyroscope, compass, and of course the GPS and indoor location as well. So one thing that you may not recognize is, for example, let's say you just received a text message that your child just got into Harvard or Stanford. Well, naturally, you'll be incredibly excited. So you don't know, but you're actually shaking that phone. Well, we register that kind of emotion. Likewise, your other kid sent you a text message that they did get into Harvard and Stanford, and now they're going to go to JC, and then you, of course, chicken and different man. So we're able to detect all this. But the point is that, in summary, all these sensors, we work across the connected home, let's just go ahead and stop.
Just trying to,
Connected home, connected cars, Internet of Things environment. And if you can imagine that, rather than, again, the singular thing like a smartphone, your computer becomes basically everything. Everything around you. You become the central figure, and as you progress from your living room to your car, to your work, and to the environment, you can actually understand what you're trying to do and actually anticipate your needs. And that's really exciting. And the context and the application of this goes beyond just sales and marketing and retail to even healthcare. So, for example, let's say that your doctor just gave you a recommendation that you need to cut back on your red meat and consume more raw organic vegetables. What if you can actually measure that response from that patient and how likely that person is going to comply with that medical advice, as an example. So we think this is very exciting. Thank you.
That's like the ultimate mood ring, right? Those who came out of the jewelry business, you can have your employees wear this all day and find out what they're thinking. Can we just have a quick round of applause? I'm going to ask some questions, but I think I'm going to let you do the asking because I see people chomping. So, but first I'm going to ask one question. How many people in this audience are wearing a wearable of some sort? No, right now. Guys, that about what you see where you go other places?
I'm at a lot of tech shows, and it's usually more.
Yeah. Right. Or more than one. Well, you win, I think, today. I think he has more wearables on than anybody. But I'd like to ask the audience if they have any questions for our panelists.
Hands.
As far as a jewelry shop or as far as an independent or a jewelry company that has 5 retail stores or a designer, is it possible, or you see the future of getting access to somebody that's making a watch, but they're buying the Swiss movements from overseas or something like that? Like, how do we incorporate that technology into our own designs?
There's a bunch. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know a lot of these devices, ours included, send data wirelessly that other devices can pick up. So for example, out of the box, our device will be able to send data to the Apple Watch, to the iPhone, to anything that has a receiver that runs a standard called Bluetooth Low Energy. That can be embedded inside jewelry as well, where it receives data. So if you wanted to create jewelry that was showing the person something about the physiology of the body or something the person wanted to monitor, the jewelry could reflect that by pulling the data from the device. So there's a continuous stream of data coming off these devices you can pull into the jewelry or whatever else you want to pull it into.
Right. Sonny's tracker can become.
Yeah, we actually have an accessory development kit where we release the mechanical design dimensions out of our device. So you can't actually use our device without an accessory. So without your accessory that, don't make one for shine, you can't actually use this. I guess you can slip it in your pocket or something. But, I'm wearing a little necklace right here, so if you want to make a little necklace for it, we have a bunch of different colors. So we can just send you our mechanical specs and you can just make it an accessory. How easy is that? No technology needed other than your brilliant design.
I do also think that I don't have a microphone anymore. Did you? There's someone take it from. So I do also think that there's a whole market out there for you as jewelry companies and designers. You understand a lot of things about who wants your product, why they buy it, the kind of emotional backing behind it. And so thinking about, what is it that you want the jewelry to do? How can you use digital capabilities to extend what jewelry already does, which is personal expression and, it's a manifestation of love. There's a lot of things that are very, very intimate about jewelry. And so you could actually come up with these concepts from, driven by you and your jewelry brands, and then come in to find the technologists. That's one of the things that we do with Manufacturing New York is sort of pair and create these kind of hybrid relationships. But I think if, the next thing of expanding beyond, what Sonny's doing is an amazing platform that does a lot of things, but you could also do something very, very specifically very well, like there's a few, for instance, like lockets on the market, like things like that that are already inside of the jewelry space. And you're like perfectly positioned to kind of, take a stab into wearables because of, you literally work in hard goods, which is what a lot of, we need to produce these things right now. And you're already working on the body, and you know the language of the body.
Yeah, and I think taking that a step further, don't underestimate, and you have the tools to take advantage of the personal touch. I like Marc Jacobs fashion. I'd like him to look better on me. So how can Marc Jacobs make that personalized for me? Same with the jewelry, and you've all seen it in the stores. I like that ring, but I wish it had a little curve there. Well, now it's easy to show them a digital model of their curve and figure out the best place to get it manufactured, do it in plastic on a 3D printer first, do it in other materials. So there are ways that that piece of jewelry is going to feel so much better to your customer because it's got a little bit of personalization in it from the design.
Robin.
No, I think, need a microphone? That's okay. Hello? By the way, I think you answered that question well, but in the jewelry industry, I guess there's over 20 or 30,000 doors, and it composes of 1 or 5 store retailers or larger chains, and it's what Robin said is, where does function meet fashion? And I think today could be a historical event because as more and more we get the word out, you're going to be speaking to your watch suppliers, your jewelry suppliers, maybe your Richline supplier, and more as this market gets bigger, there'll be manufacturers that have to embrace this technology and cooperate with other, startup and technology companies. So it's through this collaboration, through the market getting larger, more important, and I think jewelry has lost a lot of the consumer spending to Apple's or consumer electronics or to Best Buys. And I think this is an opportunity for our jewelry industry to regain some of that back. Again, on the higher price points, the better fashion jewelry, that's precious metals and diamonds, higher price points, and yes, it has the customized and the personal service that's the jewelry industry known for. And I think a lot of these larger companies, whether it be Misfit or Fitbit or some of the others, might even come out with product lines that are appropriate for the jewelry industry distribution, with the margins and the promotion to just dedicate themselves just to the jewelry industry. So.
I had a couple of comments to add to both of those questions. One of the things that's really important is, especially in the jewelry context, you don't want to put sensors for the sake of putting sensors so that you can make it tech-oriented. Rather, what is the purpose of your jewelry? What is your brand? What is your brand philosophy? What does it stand for? And on a consumer, what is it actually doing for them? I was speaking with somebody before this show, and it has to do with things like self-concept or aspirational self, or what they're trying to become or look or feel. And really the technology is really oriented towards reinforcing that sense of self or your self-construct, more than saying, how do we make this blank, or how do we notify that you have a missed call? I don't think I want to wear an earring or a necklace that blinks at me or changes colors at me, but I do want to reinforce certain things. So one of the things I spoke with Richline about is this notion about emotional signatures. So I give the example where it doesn't even have to be fancy, but when I take the kids out, and I have 2 kids, one's in middle school and one's in elementary, and when we go to the park and we're just playing silly, there is a moment when you say, wow, this is amazing, this is a great moment, but you don't have your phone, you don't have any way to preserve it. But what if we can actually preserve and actually safeguard that emotional high through sensor technology, so the heartbeat, the breathing rate, all of these things that could potentially become miniaturized in there. And what it does is it creates a history of emotional signatures, so that when you look back at your life, you can start to pinpoint when you have those emotional points, besides the weddings, besides the birth, but these emotional highs. As well as, if you're trying to live a certain lifestyle, how does this piece of jewelry, fine or otherwise, basically help you to accentuate that and help you achieve that goal? And again, it's really about that leading it first, not the technology.
Other questions?
So I think we're just about run out of time. Is that true?
Yep.
True, that is true. So I'll leave you with, I put up a few like thought points, thinking points. Should this be visible or invisible? We didn't talk about data privacy. So remember, Sonny has a Misfit on. Misfit's getting your data and telling you. Misfit's also getting every other Misfit user's data and telling you also. So Why Things last week, for example, published a study of the most fit city in the US based on data from their bracelets. Jawbone forecast could tell you who woke up in the earthquake in San Francisco based on Jawbone users who moved at that hour. So we have some real questions like, do I want Louis Vuitton to know I had a bad day when I'm in the store? No, we have real questions to ask as we put the pieces together. I urge you to speak to our experts, to look around this gorgeous room and start to make sense of the future. And I just want to bring Mark up for a minute to tell him thanks, great job on putting this together.
Yeah, one more thank you to all you guys. Incredibly educational as we had hoped and we knew you guys would do. Special thank to you, Scott, for giving us the idea of a mood ring on steroids. We really we've kind of been looking for something like that. The thank yous really start first with our panel and with Robin, but also Diane, Orleris, please stand up, and Linda Nessam, wherever you are, and Cindy waiting for our team. From our learning point of view, it's been at least a year and a half, and we spend an awful lot of time learning. We wouldn't have been able to do that without some of our tech partners who have really been teaching us this world. So, not necessarily in this order, but Adam Madelman, please stand up, from MightyCast, and Yuri, and anytime Yuri guys to say Hermé, please stand up. We're not dependent, where are you? I saw you somewhere. And Deepa Sood from Cuff. We really, we've learned so much, and that's really what we're asking everybody out there to do. Learn. It's worth it. This is going to work. This is going to be a new, exciting category. This is bringing the emotion, the experience. This is going to take a lot of things that we've strived for, and we're having a hard time competing out in the world, especially with millennials and some of that group, especially that experiential part. This can bring it back. And to the question that was asked earlier, yes, this is going to find its way to each of you, whether you're creating your own designs or you're mass marketing a little bit. There's going to be lots of possibilities where the tech world and our world are going to meet. And hopefully this, what we've done today is a little bit of a catalyst for it. So again, I'd like to thank everyone that attended. This was something that we were really hoping would interest everyone, and obviously it has. A lot of the things, if you haven't had a chance to see some of the exhibition, it's still open for about another half hour, 45 minutes. 3D printing chocolate, I know, is big. Steve Adler's 18 karat gold. I mean, you can't believe some of that stuff that's there. The virtual reality jewelry store, we can actually walk through the store, pick up things, shop. Don't worry, it's not threatening your stores. And enjoy. So again, I thank everyone, our panel, Robin, Diane, Linda,